Will continue its passage through the House of Lords this month, and one of its more controversial proposals is causing some anxiety among lone parents. It's planned that the Child Support Agency should be abolished. Instead, parents chasing maintenance would be asked to pay an application fee of £100 or £50 for those on benefits, and would then pay an ongoing charge of between 7 and 12% of the money collected by the new service. The aim is to encourage parents to make their own private arrangements, which is what Kathy did when she and her husband split. It worked well until he remarried, and then the payments became erratic.
Sometimes it was £50 and then it was £100, and it was quite unsettling because I'd had a family holiday booked which relied on that child support to actually pay for the holiday and to take my children away for the week. And that's when I decided that I can't really risk not having any more money coming my way, that he should be paying for his children. And I thought, yes, CSA should be able to help me.
What other impact did it have on your ability to run the household and also on the children in particular?
I've had to say to the children that they can't attend after school classes like football classes. They do attend Cubs and Scouts at the moment, and they're quite understanding about the financial situation that I was in. But anything extra, I really have to say no. School trips, I've had to think about whether or not I can afford for them to go. And since 3 of them are in secondary school, and I've not been able to afford any of the school trips for them.
So how vital are those maintenance payments for you?
Oh, they're
not
very
just
vital.
in terms of luxuries, but also obviously just in terms of running the household on a day-to-day basis?
Well, they go towards my mortgage payments, my bills. I have to buy them clothes and food. Yeah, it's penny pinching all the time.
So what solution did you eventually find to the problem when the payments started becoming more erratic?
I phoned up the CSA. I said I'd like to make a claim, and they got in touch, told him they were claiming, and they worked out how much he should be paying. He wasn't happy about it, and he's tried to appeal it, but they're his children, he should be supporting them, and it's the CSA guidelines to say how much he's paying.
Do you think you could have sorted out the problem between you and not had to resort to the CSA? Was there any sense at all, any understanding that you might have been able to come to another private agreement?
Originally, when he started to drop the money, when I asked him why, he couldn't give an explanation. He's just said, well, I did it, I had to do it. He wouldn't discuss with me other options, so that would have been very difficult to sort it out.
So for you, it was very much a last resort to go to the CSA?
It was a last resort, yes. I mean, I've heard lots of stories about the CSA and how difficult it is and the problems that could arise, but I needed to do it to make sure that I had a regular income.
Now, of course, when you applied to the CSA, you didn't have to pay. New proposals, if they come in, could ask parents like yourself to pay an upfront fee in order to make the application in the first place, and then ongoing standing charges. What would that have meant to you at the time if you'd had to find those fees as well?
It would have been very difficult to pay them, because by the time I did get my first CSA payment, it all went in the blink of an eye on bills that were outstanding and things that I had to pay for. So I would not have been able to spare the initial payment of £100, and to have to pay a percentage of what I would be getting from him would just be ridiculous. It does go towards mortgage, it does go towards bills, and it does go towards the children. It's the last resort, and it's something that we have to do, and to be penalised for it, for trying to do the best for your children, it's going to be a bad move in the long run, I believe.
Kathy was talking to Cecile Wright. So what will be the result of the changes if they do go ahead as planned? Fiona Weir is Chief Executive of Gingerbread. Maria Miller is the Minister responsible and joins us from Westminster. Maria, why did you think it necessary to abandon the CSA and, as we just heard from Kathy, penalise families in need?
Well, I think what we heard from Kathy's case is that maintenance is obviously very important, but also we heard that the current system is not working for Kathy and indeed tens of thousands of families. What we want to do is to make sure that more help is in place to help people like Kathy to make a secure arrangement with their ex-partner. Now, for Kathy, the Child Support Agency may have been the last resort, but for many it's seen as the default option because at the moment they simply don't know where to turn for advice and support. At the moment we're spending some £440 million every year on an IT system that can leave parents at loggerheads with each other, and just £30 million a year £30 million over 4 years to support parents to work together.
Fiona, the CSA is not working.
The CSA has caused a number of problems in the past, but for many parents it is a really important last resort, and I stress it is last resort because so many parents do try private arrangements first. But the pattern is very clearly similar to what Kathy outlined, which often, having tried private arrangements, they just can't make them stick over time. And for many parents, they actually don't know where the other parent is. Or they have a situation where they can't even have that initial discussion because the other parent is being absolutely clear that usually it's a father, that he is unwilling or unable to pay, or there is such a degree of conflict and acrimony between them that with that kind of unequal bargaining power that the woman often just does not feel able to start that conversation. So while we fully support what the government's trying to do in terms of providing support services to help people deal with that kind of hostility and those difficult situations when they first split up, it is absolutely crucial that the CSA is there as a backstop because it is a last resort. Government evidence and all the single parents we talk to very much say the CSA is last resort. People don't lightly go to it because it's had a bad reputation.
And Maria, why charge people who are in financial difficulty in the first place to get a service that they really need?
What we know is that most people do want to try and work together, and we're really grateful to Gingerbread and indeed Fiona for working with us on pulling together a support system to help parents better in the future, parents like Kathy. But what we know also is that the current system is simply not free. It costs a typical case through the lifetime of a child some £25,000, and what we're looking to do is to make sure that that parents are taking very seriously the option of going into the maintenance system, and that wherever possible, and we know for the majority of cases parents would prefer to stay outside of the system, that they are given the support to do so. And the research that we're producing today and that we've put out today shows that not only is this making more sense economically, but also it's seen as fairer and working better for parents and most importantly of all for children.
Fiona, it is a parent's responsibility to look after their children, whether they're together or not.
It is indeed, and unfortunately far too many parents are still evading that responsibility, and these maintenance payments are absolutely vital for families. Many families desperately need it. The Institute of Fiscal Studies yesterday showed that about 12%, that single parents are going to lose about 12% of their income over the next few years. So there's a lot of desperation and anger out there about the need to get child maintenance payments flowing, and for some of the support services will help them make private agreements, but for all too many they won't, and that's why a strong CSA with good enforcement powers is absolutely crucial. And we know that a lot of families just cannot afford the charging either as a barrier to getting into the system in the first place.
But how hard is it to find £100 or £50 to pay for their health?
Oh, I mean, many of the families we work with, for the average single parent family, that's 2 weeks food and drink. We talk to lots of people whose washing machine's been on the blink for literally weeks, but they can't scrape money together to get it fixed. I mean, I think government just doesn't realise how hard many people's lives are at the moment and what a barrier it can be just scraping together that initial money. And why on earth should the person who's meant to be being paid be the one who has to go through that barrier and scrape that money together in the first place just to try and get the other parent who should be paying into a system that gets that other parent to pay? It is just penalising.
Maria, you're not aware of how difficult it is?
We are absolutely making sure that the support is there for the poorest families. Now, families can keep all of their benefits, families that are on benefits, and going forward under universal credit, all child maintenance will be completely disregarded. I mean, this is absolutely clear evidence that we do understand the very real financial structural problems that separated families face. And indeed, I'm currently consulting on how we can increase the amount of money that is paid by non-resident parents that are on benefits, something which could make a significant difference. And what is important here is about getting maintenance flowing. And as Fiona knows, at the moment, around half of all children living in separated families have no financial support in place. What we're looking at is making sure that that changes so that more children can have the support that can make a real difference in their lives. And at the moment, the current system is not supporting tens of thousands of children.
Yeah.
You've got to get the arrangements in place very, very early on when people first separate, and putting up those early barriers makes it harder. All the evidence shows the longer the period after separation, the harder it is to get maintenance flowing. So let's give people as many and as easy routes as possible to get this vital money flowing. Then we can work with people to try and encourage them into private arrangements, to get money automatically deducted from earnings, to put in place a whole series of ways that make it easier for parents to sort these money problems out, and then concentrate on the really important things around how they work together to co-parent with their child.
Maria, it was Conservative policy to set up the CSA and chase what I remember were known as deadbeat dads and get mothers off benefit. What will happen to lone parents who can't afford the fees? Will they just go back on benefit?
We want to make it absolutely clear that there is no way that I'm seeing either the upfront charges or any ongoing charges as being a barrier. What we want to make sure is that parents are making a really considered decision about going into a system which, as I say, costs on average through the lifetime of a child around £25,000 to administer. What it's important to do is that we get people to be able to make their own arrangements if they're able to, because these are better for children, they're seen as fairer by families, and actually the research we produced today shows that they're more likely to be robust and to endure in the long term.
Fiona?
You have to realise there are hundreds of thousands of people using the CSA now who think they've finally got the maintenance payments sorted. They're going to have about £550 average removed as charges by government. That's going to create enormous pressure on them to go into some kind of alternative maintenance direct arrangement. And in many cases that will then break down because the payments will stop being regular and the parent and care will be back in a cycle of desperately trying to reinstate those relations.
Fiona Weir, Maria Miller, thank you both very much indeed. Now, still to come.